Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin Bischoff and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey guys, before we kick off on the episode, I want to introduce you to a new phase of the Home Building Hub. We have decided to go back to school, that is SKOOL. We've created a community based on the back of a podcast we've been running for so long now. We've created a community for you, for all home buyers to jump in and get access to a whole range of tools, checklists, information, and most importantly, find other home buyers in there so you can follow people's journeys, you can share your own journey, and we're excited to build the most trusted community that is independent and objective in the whole country. So get in there, it's skoolschool.com. Look up Home Building Hub, download the app, come and say hi, and we will see you in there. Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Home Building Hub. You're with Colin and co-host Darren Brennan, as always. And Dazza, episode number 1 this year. We're kicking off, although it's nearly Feb. I think it's February tomorrow, but we've had a bit of a break. Looking forward to kicking off again, buddy. It's been, about 6 weeks or so. So we've had a good rest and we're sort of fired up, ready to go into an interesting topic today around all electric and whether you can expect it in your state. And for those that can, we're going to explain a little bit about how that works, when it's coming in, just to give you the awareness, that's all. So Dazza, welcome back.
Yeah, likewise, mate. Yeah, and Happy New Year to the listeners. And hopefully 2026 is a really prosperous year for everyone. But also over the break, Cole, I think depending on what people were up to, our number of listeners went down a bit, then it went back up a bit, and it went down a bit, and then it went back up a bit. So we've sort of had a bit of a roller coaster ride of listeners, tuning in. But last week was a fantastic week, and we're glad that even though we haven't recorded anything for 6 weeks, it's people are still getting value out of the podcast and tuning in and listening. So thanks for doing so, and we're looking forward to this year's episodes, and hopefully we can continue to help you along your building journey. So that's what it's all about.
Yep, it is. And trying to keep it relevant. Like some of the topics we've covered, once or twice before, but they're tweaked to be relevant to the current day environment. And this is one of those with all electric. So there are, we're in Victoria and Victoria centric, but we do like to touch on other states because we do have listeners in other states, and want to highlight if there's an all-electric requirement coming your way. And then particularly for Victoria, we're going to talk a little bit about the reality that there is one coming your way and what the dates are and what does it really mean, like all-electric. So what does that mean? What items do I have to change and things like that. So this will be quite helpful for you as a prospective buyer looking to sort of get that into your budget, because going all-electric, Darren, it's generally going to cost you a bit more, isn't it? So I'll kick off just with state by state, like generalized, I suppose. So we did a little bit of homework on this. So based on the initial search, it appears that the main states really, I guess, so New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania and Northern Territory have nothing upcoming in terms of an all-electric requirement. They do have different localised, schemes and things like that around energy efficiency standards and whatnot. That was certainly something that come across in our research, but it sort of varies, even by shire or council, so that's not something we need to dive into in too much detail. But one of the things that we certainly know is Victoria has implemented a transition of from gas over to all electric, and we'll talk a bit more about the detail of that. But one of the things I think for those in other states to be aware of is the Australian Energy Market Commission, they call the AEMC, basically has made a ruling that new connections to gas will cost you more money. What they say, and this is quoting, is this is about giving customers clear upfront price signals so they can make informed decisions about their energy choices, which is probably indicating a little bit, Darren, that we're going to make gas a little bit more and, somewhat subtly encourage people to at least consider, their option to move to all electric.
Just lean on them enough from a pricing point of view that encourages them to head over to all electric and make the gas option less viable, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. So there's nothing formal or official, but it's more like, hey, we're sort of discouraging a little bit one and encouraging the other. And I assume the other states, Darren, are going to watch what happens with Victoria and how that rolls out. You know,
Yeah.
it sort of makes sense. So the rule will apply to those states, Australian Capital Territory, New South Wales, South Australia, and some Queensland, not all gas distribution networks from the 1st of October 2026. Okay, so basically what that means is it doesn't cost you too much as part of your build contract to connect to gas, but right now, but it will. And that's something in Victoria we've already had for quite a while. It cost, I think it was 2,600 initially, Darren. Now it's creeping up, sort of $3,000 plus
Yeah, correct.
just to connect gas, and that I assume is based on the fact that a lot of people are moving over to all electric, which makes the cost per customer needs to be higher to help overcome the gas distributors, I guess, overheads and what they have to pay, I suppose.
I
But
think the government also, Cole, did suggest that they were doing it as a lever to try and encourage people to head across to all electric. So,
yeah,
really a discouragement and then incentivizing other ways for people to move to all electric. So,
cool. That's the sort of, I guess, the overarching view or information. Maybe let's dive into a little bit more specific now, Darren, with the Vic stuff.
for sure, mate. So, um, I guess the first bit is when does it start? So, the Victorian government um, is maintaining its campaign against the use of gas in Victoria. So they've been really adamant that they want to push people away from using gas, and at some point, I guess go to all electric right across the board. And at some point, I can imagine there'll be very little gas usage at all in residential or commercial, Colin, unless there's no other alternative. So the ban. Has evolved since it was first announced. So it's continued evolving, and what it's basically heading towards is that come uh, the first of January 2027, is that all new builds will no longer residential builds will no longer be able to connect to gas. Is basically the situation there. So that's a big shift from its current point, where if there's gas in the street in a new subdivision and there's no planning requirements, then you can connect to that gas. Whereas even if there's gas in the street, come the 1st of January next year, and that's going to come around pretty quick, it always does, you're not going to be able to connect. So, we're going to start to see builders changing their specifications to start to bat down the path of all electric. How soon they do that? We know a lot of buyers really love having gas connected to their home. They want gas in the home. They want to be able to cook with gas. They're really happy with that as that alternative. I think they're less bothered about the heating and cooling element of what's going on in the home. I think yes, gas is great and it's quick and it's all those things when you turn the heater on. But a lot of people are happy to go to a split system or go to ducted, full reverse cycle heating, cooling, etc. But the cooking is the real key for most people. So I guess what does that ban actually mean from a build point of view, and what are those items? So what does all electric homes mean? So the key items are that your gas ducted heating will be replaced with either split systems, electric wall panel heating, or ducted reverse cooling. There are other alternatives outside of that, but for the most part, they'd be the three that people will look at. From there, you've got your gas cooktop will need to be replaced with either an electric ceramic cooktop or more likely an induction cooktop. If your oven's a gas oven, which again, most of them these days aren't, most of them are electric, but if it is a gas oven, that'll also need to be transitioned over to an electric oven. Your gas hot water service will need to be replaced by an electric heat pump. So again, I say replaced, they'll just be substituted. I'll put one in and pull the other out. The trick with all this is it all costs money, so it's not free to do. So you're looking at anywhere between 5K on a small house up to probably 15K, and it could well be more. So, really roughly speaking, depending on what inclusions builders include already, that's going to all take part in, contributing to that cost. Other things to consider: do you need three-phase power connection? And is it even available to your home? So is there three-phase to the street that allows you and your home to connect to that? Because without that, there's going to be times when, if you are to run everything at once, that you may well be tripping your electricity fuse box, tripping the switches, etc. in there. Um, and adding to that, Cole, I guess, is with all of these changes, electricity is not getting any cheaper. So what do you do there? You've already, all new homes under the NCC are required to have a solar PV system on them as part of the change to the NCC and the I've forgotten the terminology for it now. So jump in and help me out, Cole, on that actual
Whole of home.
whole of homes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole of home. So you're seeing all these homes with generally 3.5 kilowatt solar system. Do you upgrade that? Do you go to a 6.6 kilowatt and get your builder to do it? Do you look at considering batteries? Do you make sure that if you are a 3 or 3.5 kilowatt system, that it is expandable and able to be upgraded if you want to do that in the future? Is it battery ready? So again, if you want to do that in the future, all those things need to be considered as part of your game plan moving forward. I can say I'm an advocate of solar. I've got solar in my house, 10.5 kilowatt. I've got battery sitting in my garage. Generally speaking, our cost is very low. But what we're also seeing is the government tariffs getting wound back, the feed-in tariff. So, when I signed up, I think I was getting 15 cents. I know back in the day, I'm sure my dad was getting 60 cents per kilowatt back into the system. They're now talking about that's getting down to 1.5 cents with a lot of people. And I'm sure soon it'll be zero. So, there is offsets. The battery helps that because obviously you're using the battery to not feed back into the system. So that's a bit where we're at from a Victorian point, I guess. Cole, maybe talk to us about the new builds a bit more on that.
Yeah, so I think if you're in another state, then and you're considering all electric, then you can still get some value from the items Darren's listed. They're the main ones to consider. If you're in Victoria, you're going to face, which is always the case, like a bit of confusion around a builder's standard inclusions. So, do they have all electric as standard? Do they still have gas and then all electric is an upgrade? Do they have a bit of 50-50, like Darren, you said before, where you are working, they have three-phase power included as standard. So that saves a few grand, 2 or 3 grand right there that another builder may charge you on top. So it's going to be a bit of a navigation process for you to make sure you understand your inclusions. If you do need all electric, ceramic cooktop versus induction cooktop, I assume quite a few will just do the ceramic as standard and the induction will be an upgrade. But then some builders will say, no, we're just going to go induction straight off the top. So you have to really sort of understand those things as well, which is just going to add a little bit more confusion, but your consultant can explain it to you as long as you ask the question. That's probably all you need to do. The start date, as Darren said, was the 1st of January 2027, and that's basically, at the moment, just so you know, we're looking at engineering plans and we're selling into estates now who have stages that have no gas. So already, if you buy a block of land in a stage that has no gas, then you're paying for all electric today, no doubt. There's no other choice. So that's happening a little bit. We've had a few jobs where we missed the all electric. I think everyone sort of had that because it was something new and we didn't quite know. And it's a transition period, but the reality is that's what's happening. We have those stages and estates out there already, Darren. But
For sure.
What I think is most interesting is, okay, what if I sign a contract, in 2026, I signed the contract. Do I still need to, and that's for gas, and I have a gas estate, do I still need to pay for all electric after the 1st of January 2027? Now, we can't categorically answer that question, but based on what's on the HIA website, it does imply that the government has clarified that a Section 10 can give you an exemption from having to build out all electric, even though your house is starting in, let's say, January or February 2027. based on the fact that you've already really got your plans and got your contract signed. That's the part that's a little grey, because each surveyor and now a surveyor is the one who signs a Section 10, they may have a different view on this. So one surveyor may say, if you've paid an initial deposit or a prelim fee up front and that's it, I'm going to approve your Section 10. It means you can have gas. Some other surveyors may say, no, you need to be well and truly down the track. I need to see that you've got working drawings and you're nearly ready to go to permit. But you're just waiting for titles, for example. That could be another view of a surveyor. So we will now need to understand how surveyors see that and what they deem acceptable to sign Section 10s. If it's anything like our transition from 6-star to 7-star, Darren, I think it will be a little bit of common sense. I found that to be a pretty basic process once everyone knew the state of play. And basically what happened there is if you had a set of drawings, you paid for them already on the old regulations, then you weren't expected to have to pay for another set. They don't want to put consumers out of pocket. I think some form, and I hope some form of common sense prevails here, that if you've got the deal done, you've got a contract signed, I don't know if it'll be based on a prelim fee or an initial quote. I think you'll have to have some money down, and you'll absolutely have to have a contract maybe signed. I feel like that might be the right thing, Darren. That might be the right trigger. And if you've got that, then you're likely to be okay to continue on with gas, regardless of when you actually start the construction of your new home. Yeah,
for sure. And it's I guess the other part with all this, Cole, is the reason the government's doing it is obviously, the target for net zero emissions, and it's a big target for the country to try and hit. And what I understand is about 15% of the emissions that are made are coming from gas usage. So, it takes out, it's a big wipeout if they can take out that as much of that 15% as possible.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting, like, what I've just explained is not categorically, factually confirmed. The Section 10 is in writing on the HIA, yes, but how the surveyor sees that is different. 100%. So we've still got some work to do there. And hey, in 3 months, the government may change it again. It's evolving, like Darren said at the top. So it might be, well, bad luck. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. If you build a house from January 1st next year, stiff biscuits, you're going to pay for all electric. And I hope that doesn't happen, because it's going to get people out of pocket $5,000 to $15,000 or even more $1,000, which we don't want. And then often in those situations, Darren, the client then gets really angry with the builder. And it's like, well, because you should have known. But sometimes this stuff is grey until the last minute, and in the situation where you're buying early and you're locking in a price and a contract with a builder who's, protecting your price for 12 months plus, that's a good move, right? But things happen in between that 12 months that are outside of the control. So as it stands, I guess we're saying don't take it to the bank, but I suspect that if you sign a contract in 2026, but you build in 2027, I suspect that you'll be given a Section 10 that approves, a gas build. But we'll let you know.
Yep. Yeah. Then when we know, we'll let you know, which will be good. So the other bit that plays out is existing buildings owner occupied. So existing homes, they're likewise having to transition in due course. So it's a bit of a slower transition period. That start date for their transition is the 1st of March, 2027. And the HIA's basically come out and said that some of the proposed restrictions on installation of gas appliances in existing homes have been removed. The restriction now only applies to replacement of gas hot water services once they've reached end of life. So at this point, you only have to replace your gas hot water service if it cannot be repaired, basically. So if the hot water service can be repaired and maintained, you can continue as gas. But if it needs to be replaced, it must be replaced by a electric unit. Existing gas cooking and heating systems can also be replaced with new gas ones, though electrification is encouraged. And I'm pretty sure there's some government rebates and stuff in place too to really lean on people to shift over. And I reckon I get 3 phone calls a week to say, we come and replace your, gas hot water service with a heat pump one, and I'm not sure the guy's ringing from which country or
Yeah.
whether it's a spam call or not. But geez, they keep harassing the shit out of us on those calls. So I'm sure everyone else is very much the same.
No doubt about it. Yeah. That's good. Well, there's no doubt that hopefully gives you guys some good preparation, some insight into what's happening already and what's to happen, to come. It sort of feels like, Darren, when I was selling houses, I don't remember so many fundamental or significant changes happening.
All the
Like
time.
it, I remember we went from 5 star to 6 star, which really was from a sales consultant point of view that the business went, here you go, here are the changes, that's it. And we were like, okay, cool, we can roll with that. And I don't remember much after that for years.
Yeah.
And now it seems every year we've got, it's all for the greater good, I suppose. But we've got fundamental changes, which really are quite, as a business in the industry, is quite a difficult thing to keep navigating and changing everything over and over. So,
I think the other
yeah,
part to pick up in this, Cole, is often people want to hold off. They're like, I want to hold off and not make a decision around buying, or they want to hold off. They've bought a block of land. Well, wait a year. If you haven't signed up for a house by the end of this year, which will come around quick, and you want gas in it, you miss the boat. So it's more just bringing it up to highlight that these changes are happening. If you're buying untitled land, it looks like the Section 10 will cover it. But again, it's up to the building surveyor determination of what that is. So you may walk into one builder and get it approved, and potentially who's using a particular surveyor and go to another that interprets that regulation differently, or the way in which that time frame of those regulations are written, and get a different answer. So I guess don't set yourself up for failure on these things. At least be aware. If gas is important to you, to be able to cook with gas, have a gas ducted heating unit, etc., and the additional cost is something you don't want to have to bear, then consider what that looks like for you, is really what we're trying
yeah,
to say.
yeah, perfect. Well, Daz, I'll have to remember how we wrap these episodes up. But if you like what you're hearing, then please leave us a review. It's a good start. And if you do have questions and feedback and whatnot, we've got a few different options. But one of those is jump on the website, homebuildinghub.com.au. There's a contact us there. If you're looking for a little bit more information, one of the things we have started in most recent times is a school community. That's SKOOL. Search Home Building Hub, and you will find a community there. You have to just register to join. Got a whole bunch of resources in there for you. Home Building Hub guide, massive guide, that's full of all the tips and the tricks, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Some couple of webinars in there, so some good value. It's completely free, worth going in. Other than that, Daz, anything to add?
No, mate, other than catch on the next one.
Done. Good on you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll
Thank you.
talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Home Building Hub. As part of the podcast, we have to be a little careful to cover ourselves on a legal standpoint. So we do have a disclaimer. Whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered legal or financial advice. It does contain general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your own personal situation before you make any legal or financial decisions.
1,